when the least you can do is keep things entertaining while I suffer.
Oh, trust me, Luke, we're suffering with you. Hey Internet, it's Jessica and welcome back to The Letter. So we are gonna go help Kylie out as her friend is crying in the bathroom. And now let's see if Rebecca can put her teacher skills to good use. Kylie escorts us to an adjacent hall. At this hour, the corridors and the rooms lining the sides are empty. Save for the gentle rustling of leaves, the twittering of birds outside, and the tapping of her foot against the floor. The whole area stays eerily quiet. Not unusual, though. This part of the building was reserved for a club and activities at the end of the school day, with the rest of the school busy with another event. It's only natural for it to be this deserted. Come afternoon, right after class, it'll once again be filled with people. For the time being, I focus on the toiletries at the far end, heading straight for it. Luke stays behind, opting to wait on the end of this drama instead of obviously not wanting to deal with another person's kid. Meanwhile, Kylie follows right after me, unusually silent as we approach the ladies' room. Sometime before we made a turn down the hallway, she has stopped sniffling and started using the tune under her breath.
London Bridge is falling down, falling down, falling down. London.
Why does her tone of voice seem different?
Fair lady.
Okay, I have a bad feeling. This sounds like when she was singing. Remember when she turned into a different person? Probably to brace her calm herself. Or maybe this is her way of pretending to pull her friend out of a sulk. It certainly reminds me of another person. I make no remarks on it, however. It's all part of growing up, they say. Let her learn. The door is slightly ajar when we get to it, and from inside, the sobs of a girl echo weakly, barely audible even in this kind of hush. I just realized something. It's not her friend, right? She made friends with the ghost girl. Because in stories about hauntings and stuff like that, children are the most susceptible to ghosts. I'm not saying like evil spirits mostly. It's like generally souls that are lost. At least that's how I see it. They go to kids for comfort because kids are more, I guess, honest and more innocent, right? They're more willing to like be friendly with people rather than an adult. That's why they kind of show themselves to kids more often. So Kylie has made friends with the girl. Turns out Kylie is not the only one upset about this. Despite the situation, a smile forms on my lips as I call out to her friend.
Hello? Hello there?
Ah!
You're Kylie's friend, aren't you? Melody, is it? She's looking for you.
Children can be so amusing sometimes. Granted, they can be exasperating, especially around this age. But the endearing things about them outweigh those. All you need is enough level of patience.
Career day's about to start, too. You'll have to come out, or you're going to be really late for it. Miss Alice won't be happy if one of her kids isn't there. I heard she brought little gifts for everyone who'll behave. Don't you want to receive one?
However, her cries show no sign of abating. They only grow louder. No, not close to a wail. Alarming regardless.
Are you okay?
From where I'm standing, it sounds like almost like she is in some kind of pain. It's not impossible. They do that at sometimes, hiding what ails them for fear of reprimand. It's like that. Coaxing them out might be useless. It also makes sense of why she chose the loo furthest from the classroom. Wasting no time, I gesture for Kylie to wait and amble towards the door calmly so I don't alarm her. At the same time, a distant sense of deja vu hits me. I've been in this position before, behind a door, with someone crying on the other side. My call is ignored as they grow into a wail. Just this past week, actually. Even so, being in the same situation before doesn't bring comfort. Remember in the house, she heard someone crying and then asking, do you need help? And then no one answered her. I'm putting up for the child beside me is a thick undercurrent of worrying trickling into my stomach. Oh my god. I take one last breath and I nudge the door open. It all happened in a span of seconds. What? What? I don't make it past 2 steps into the room. What? Her cries abruptly stop. Light footsteps shuffle behind me, coming at the halt of the door. My heart skips a beat. And when I turn... Ah!
Kylie?
Oh, no!
Miss Pink? Miss Pink? Why didn't you help her?
My whole body becomes motionless at the sight of her, words catching in my throat and heart pounding rapidly against my chest. This is Kylie, I'm sure of it. Yet nothing in the manner she speaks or the way she tilts her head in question carries the youthful, innocent vibe she always brings with her. As if I'm merely looking at a dead, hollow imitation of the child.
Can't you hear her? She's asking for your help.
What is this? Like a simulacra? But it's not those that trigger a memory. It's those chilling eyes. Calling. Beckoning.
Why won't you listen to her?
Oh my god, I don't like this. And all at once, the memory returns to me. At the tide has researed and now returns to shore of overwhelming force, carrying the image of a single moment from days ago, of a world passing by in a blur, and of features I can barely discern under the little light there was. The back of the car. Not even a week has passed. In this minute, while I'm keeping my eyes trained on the child before me, they return with such unbearable clarity. There's no horrid wounds this time. No blood streaming down a pale face, thank heavens. Just lips contorting into a smile. Twisted smile. They brim with venom I've never expected to see in a child, sending tiny pinpricks of dread crawling up my limbs and winding up my neck. Oh, you're a bad person. People like you deserve to die. Whoa! I can't breathe. Those whispers and laughters again! Judging, mocking, taunting. Each scathing word ringing sharp and true against my ears. My throat closes in. My whole body tenses. A chill settles at the tip of my fingers. Every digit gone rigid from the cold. With every single draw of breath, any struggle for air or freedom, the coils wrapped around my body tighten, dragging me down. A gradual tortuous descent into another bottomless abyss. On and on and on, until I lose touch with myself and the world.
Help me!
What is happening? Until darkness claims me and unexpectedly a note. In the distance, harsh and piercing, cutting through the thick stupor and shattering the haze without warning.
Are you ladies done with your business here?
Oh god, Luke, get me out of here, bro! My eyes snap open and the world shifts into place with a ragged gas. When I glance up, a different set of eyes greet me.
Are you okay, Miss Pink?
No anger, no vile hatred in them, just plain sincere concern. Bit by bit, I'm aware of my surroundings and myself as warmth steadily slips back to me. I've reached out in the nearby corner to steady myself at some point, and my knuckles have gone white. How rigid my grip is! It's over now, yet the tension hasn't left my body. My heart still hammers hard against my chest in an erratic rhythm, and my breathing still comes to a short, shallow burst. For me, Kylie fumbles with her hands, utterly unsure of what to do to an adult, in what's probably a laughable stare.
Did you get sick? I'll call to you, okay? Just stay here and don't move.
No. No need. Just leave me alone.
Teal will know how to fix you. Oh, wait, okay?
I wish I could speak reassurance to her, but I can't shake it off. Twisting at my insides in anticipation. Of what? I am no longer sure. Pushing myself over the counter, I break into a run. Brushing off the anxious look Kylie gives me when I gently push her away out of my way, or the furrow on Luke's brow when I stumble into him outside. Whatever they both saw on my face, I don't care to know. Bloody hell, I don't even understand what's happening anymore. Well, that was nice! Tremors continue long after the last of my classes have ended. Although none of my students have commented on it, I've caught a few sharings of anxious glances. Every time a pen slips from my hand or my shoulders tense whenever called. How unusual it must be for them to see a normally composed scales become a bundle of nerves. Even the most boisterous ones have given me less grief today. You think being on the 4th cup of tea would provide any sort of comfort? Damn, 4th cup? Or is it the 5th? Again, why does counting even matter now? The fact that I can easily shake off this time should tell me something. The last time this happened, I passed it off at some lapse in my part, after having been sick for a week before.
And it is a natural conclusion.
Those are just stories, a century-old lore passed by locals to keep children in line. What place doesn't have those? One of my dad's books even went as far as describing them as a strong part of Isabella's culture. Tree giants, women who feed on unborn children straight from their mother's womb. Or hell, there's even been a story about a demon baby. All folklore that never had a smidgen of truth in it, most probably told to scare off the natives back in the old days. Much like every other one in every other place. The world is more universal than people think to care, but looking at it from where I'm standing now, after staring right into the eyes of that woman, after all the things that I've been hearing and feeling, perhaps there really is more to that a bloody letter than some awful Halloween prank.
Perhaps Isabella's right.
Yes! You should have believed her from the beginning! A terrible thing if true. Though that thought doesn't linger long, thankfully. Soon the ringing of my mobile takes my attention away from it. An unfamiliar name flashes before me once the screen lights up and my brows knit together. Marianne McCullough. Staring at the screen, I try to remember where I entered this person on my contact list. It takes a moment, but when it clicks, my eyes zero in on the book lying wide open on my table. Loaned from the library almost a week ago. I met the woman there by sheer coincidence, a fellow historian buff apparently. We were after the same book, but in the end she gave it to me under the condition that I call her once I'm done. To be honest, I've completely forgotten about it until now, and well, I haven't really taken a peek until today. Normally, I'd be done with the whole volume of this size in a few days after taking it out, about 1 or 2, depending how busy I am, but finding a chance to sit down and read through it has been more difficult than lately and I anticipated. One moment I'm busy simply grading worksheets, attending a movie premiere, the next and someone suddenly invites me out for one reason or another. Days later, a friend stopped showing up in her flat, right after worrying reports pop up in the local news. There simply isn't enough time to breathe and get a grip on things. I've been flipping through the pages of said book moments ago, though never really reading anything, merely hoping for a distraction. To no avail. My phone gives out another ring, and this time I do not hesitate to answer.
Marianne?
Hello! Here I was starting to wonder if it was a bad time to call. Is it?
No, not at all. I dismissed my last class a few minutes ago. I'm pretty much free for the rest of the afternoon, unless something comes up. Is this about last time? The book?
Not really. I was hoping to ask you about some other thing.
Oh, sure. What about?
You grew up in this city, didn't you?
It's a peculiar question to ask to someone you've just met, but I answer her nevertheless. I'm more curious where she's heading with this by starting with that.
Born and raised, 3rd-generation migrant. Why do you ask?
So, you must be familiar with the local lore.
The house.
Stories?
Quite. If I'm going to teach about history, I'd like to think I am, yeah? But a family friend would be a better person to ask. If you want, I can contact him for you.
No. Let's just keep this thing between us, okay? It's nothing too big. Alright, I really don't know how else to put this without sounding a bit crazy. But things have been really, odd. Do you remember the mansion I mentioned back when we met? My current project?
In hindsight, I should have expected to lead to this. She must have not lived here long if she's just asking about this now. It didn't take a week with Isabella when she arrived, but that's Isabella, superstitious down to the last hair. Though it won't be too far off to think Marianne has only started thinking about this recently. She's working on the damn house itself. I must admit, even I'm curious now, despite living here for so many years and having so many chances to look it up before.
The Ermengarde Mansion, yes?
Yes, that one. And, the thing is... Oh dear, this is a bad idea. You know what? Just forget I ever called you about this.
It must have been the sunny weather. It's making me sick and seeing stupid things. Seeing things.
No, wait. It's alright. I don't mind.
There's a moment pause before she responds again. Right in that, this is a silly thing to talk about, especially between what I assume two people who are pretty grounded on their beliefs regarding these things. I won't blame herself if she hesitates.
I can't believe I'm asking you about this.
It's fine. Why don't you just think of it as some form of research?
Well, alright. But after this, we're going to forget we ever had this talk.
My lips will be sealed. Now, what is it about the mansion?
Just, what do you know about it? The general gist. The place's past. What happened to the owners? Anything you can give me.
Let's see. To start off,
I do my best to give her my concise summary from the time the house was commissioned 400 years ago and who had built it, up until the point it got deserted after the last heir's death, and the deed was passed on to the Ermengarde's nearest relatives. Frankly, if it weren't for those urban legends persisting, the house would have already faded into obscurity long ago, demolished even. Those are all nothing she probably haven't heard of before, yet there's a dissatisfaction in her tone once I finish.
That's all there really is to it?
as far as I know. There's this little bit I forgot to mention about Lady Charlotte Ermengarde's death, but most of those are just theories. Aside from that, this is really everything we've been teaching all these years. Should there be anything more?
See, the thing with it, like, history and stuff, people tend to forget about, like, certain parts of stories. They kind of just summarize it, and they don't exactly pass on the true story from generation to generation. So, what happened to the family, Lady Charlotte, and the Ermengarde family, it's probably changed. That's why I think something else is going on with the ghost girl, especially seeing it from Hannah's point of view in her storyline. I don't think Lady Charlotte is that ghost girl. I think it's something much more complicated than just that. I don't know why, I just feel like it's that.
No mention of any other weird stuff? Other crazy stories? Or a letter of some sort?
My blood runs cold. Any warmth from the comfort of the tea that I drank has given me prior has instantly been drained out of me. The phone creaks softly as my light hold on it turns into a firm grip. The whole letter bullshit is starting to turn into more of a coincidence.
None that I've heard or read of. What does a letter have to do with this?
Oh, no. It was just something I came across. Ignore it. Random thoughts, you know? By the way, I need to run. Thanks for answering my questions.
She ends the call abruptly with only a clip goodbye, leaving my mind heavy with even more thoughts. The mood around my classroom has gone considerably denser in light of what little I have gleaned from the conversation. I don't think Marianne's lying about what her intent is. Her interest is genuine, I'd give her that, but she left a lot of things out. I get the sense she only asked because something happened around her too, and if she hasn't mentioned the letter, I probably wouldn't have made the connection.
Just what the hell did we get ourselves into?
Yeah, now you're starting to believe it, huh? Of course, there's a lot of confusing details in this. All of these are just assumptions. Not concrete conclusions to be formed with what we have, and if we want to find out what really we're dealing with, I think Marianne's right. There might be something more than those stories, as absurd as it sounds. The very place that gave us the letter might tell us something beyond what we know, and tomorrow night, I have a few hours of that chance at the housewarming party. Totally not an exciting thought, since the place is privately owned now. I can't just wander around. But it's enough reason to keep a dread at bay as I step out into the room, ready to put an end to this day. Oh, Luke's here again. However, all good vibes disappear into thin air when I have run headfirst into Luke. There's really something in this man. Regardless of how much my opinion of him has changed over the span of a few hours, he simply blasts through every good impression people have of him without care or thought. He doesn't even need to open his mouth, his mere presence does it. In all honesty, I think he's the kind of guy only a mother can love.
You're still here?
Obviously. Who do you think's standing in front of you?
An ass.
Oh, come on, Daisy. You've done better than that. Losing your touch?
Luke, I don't have time for this. I'm heading home, and your face is the last thing I want to see before I leave. What do you want?
Lately, I noticed his hand, partly raised, almost poised for a knock. At the slight lift of a brow, he quickly drops it to his side and turns to Kylie. She's standing a few steps away from him, holding her hands behind her back and toeing at something on the floor with the tip of her shoe. Then he proceeds to make a vague gesture at me and the child. He resembles a fishing flopping for the air, the way that he's moving his arms. Though I think he's trying to urge her to speak up.
Munchkin, I thought you wanted to tell her something.
You do it, Tio.
This wasn't my idea, darling.
Don't worry. I won't tell Tia what you told me the other day. And this morning.
Luke exhales, rolling his eyes at the ceiling and maybe praying for the universe to grant him more patience. He knows a losing battle when he sees one. He may act worse than a 5-year-old throwing a tantrum at times, but he's no match for an actual child. Nothing better than being served a dose of his own medicine, huh? Once his frustrations has been promptly let out, he points a rude finger at me. I do my best to stare at the offending digit down, but I can hear the demand before it's even let out of his lips.
You, come with us.
What makes you think I will?
Because little Rugrat here is upset and worried, and it's your bloody fault. I've no idea what happened this morning, but if you don't come with us, I won't be hearing the end of it from her.
You could just be like, hey, would you like to come? I'm assuming that she's trying to take her out for like parfait or something. Be like, hey, do you want to come get dessert with us? Instead of being like, you're coming with us. It sounds like you're kidnapping her.
So do me a favor, Daisy, and just be glad I'm inviting you.
You're asking for a favor, and you can't be bothered to be polite?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's been a really busy day for me. I kind of miss my couch.
Daisy, you just say yes.
A pause follows, almost too dramatic. Afterwards, his face twists into something between a grimace and a smile. As it happens, he appears like he's in a lot of physical pain. You think a man is getting an aneurysm by simply being polite.
Please?
Tio said it'll be his treat.
What? I said no such thing, Munchkin. I only agreed to this because you requested it. I'm under no obligation to feed her.
I promise I'll be quiet the next time I visit.
Oh, all right, but just one meal and make it the cheapest.
You're rich, dude! Come on, Luke! He and Ashton will get along famously on that department. On a different front, the offer from a free dinner does sound enticing, however half-heartedly given it is. Mostly because Kylie is the wiser, putting on a puppy eyes, and by the second I find all of my choices slipping away from me.
See, Miss Pink? It'll be fun! You don't have to feel sad anymore, okay?
Oh, well,
My mobile buzzes from my pocket, cutting me mid-sentence for a second. I'm spared from the act of giving an answer and I'll regret either later. Fishing out the gadget, I wave a hand to him to excuse myself, a disgruntled expression on Luke's face before I turn away. I'd be lying if I say it didn't amuse me. He is as eager to be done with this as I am, but what can I do? Checking, a message from Ashton shows up. Oh. Hey Becca, I'll be around Salem Well this evening. Need to meet someone in the area. I might have to do a drop by at yours and Isabella's place after. See ya. Just the usual. Unlike what he does to Zachary, Ashton has the decency to let us know when he's dropping by or he's in the area for some business. From the way that it's phrased, it sounds like to be the latter. Either way, I'm glad he's just a little aware of the boundary. Not that Isabella's ever going to let him leave the building unscathed, if he ever pulls the same stunt he does with the other man. I cringe to imagine what she'll do to him. Sighing, I slip the gadget back into my pocket. But looking up at Luke's utter impatience on his face, I now face a different dilemma. The two of them are still waiting, and knowing the kind of person Luke is, this is already a grand gesture of goodwill and coming from him. All to please his godchild. His denials aside, it's easy to tell that he's really fond of Kylie from the actions alone. I kinda hate to ruin that.
Well, Daisy, we're waiting here.
On the other hand, there's Ash. His message doesn't exactly imply that he's going to wait or he's expecting me to be there, but there are matters I hope to discuss with him in person, to simply put. What do you mean? To tell him that you love him? Housewarming parties matter. With inviting Isabella out of the question, I have only Zachary and Ashton. Although the former has already made it clear he'll be busy this week, and while Ashton has been my first choice from the start, if he even detests attending gatherings like this, it's company that counts. We can be miserable together. But that's the problem, isn't it? He hates them. As very likely his answer will be flat no. I'd rather not hear that. If by some miracle he agrees to it, he'll probably be sulking the whole party. Not really a tough choice when you put it like that, still. Tough choice, but I have to pick one. I have other things to do, but only because Kylie asked. Okay, if I'm being completely honest, yeah, it'd be cool, we can go to Ashton. Maybe there's a chance Rebecca can, like, confess her love to him, but I feel like that's not gonna happen. I'm kind of curious what would happen if we go to Luke and Kylie. So I'm gonna say real quick, because I want to know what happens if we go with them. In the end, it's my own fondness of Kylie that wins out. Chances are I'll only have to endure his presence for an hour or so. If it lasts more than that, I can make up an excuse, a sudden call from a friend, or things on work. It doesn't seem to be so bad when I think of the pros and cons. At best, it'll be quiet dinner. At worst, it'll be an awkward affair we're both eager to get rid of. I'm leaning more on the latter happening, hoping for the former, of course.
Okay, but only because Kylie asked.
Kylie's face instantly lights up. For the third time today, she tackles me into a hug before pulling away and dragging me by the hand towards the building's exit.
That's alright. I'm sure Tio doesn't mind. He let me pick where we're going to eat. Don't worry, it's just close.
Luke follows closely behind, and perhaps out of some desire to keep the dread air away, I can't resist throwing in a quip.
Keep your distance. You better not do anything funny, you hear?
I'm the one who should keep my distance. May I remind you who approached me first and what you did right after?
Oh, I remember it clearly. But perhaps it's you who needs a reminder. You seem to have never learned your lesson. Care we give it another try? Maybe this time it'll stick.
Maybe this time it'll stick.
Oh my god, Luke, shut up.
You think you're scary? I'll show you what's scary.
To my surprise, his tone lacks the usual sardonic note in it, and briefly I pause to stare at him. He quickly shuts his mouth right after and walks ahead of us. All talk and no trousers like the usual, and for the better part of our walk, except for Kylie's excited chatter, we don't speak. Somehow I have this strange feeling I'm already getting used to this kind of banter with him. I'm not sure if it's good or bad thing, and amidst this newfound friendship, dare I call it that, Ashton's messages lay forgotten and abandoned in my pocket. Sorry, Ashton! I feel kind of bad because I don't mean to, like, not help with this, like, investigation, because I know he's investigating Luke, right? But, like, I just want to know what happens here. Because, like, I feel like if we can get out and then I can tell Ashton later, you know, if we notice anything weird. Of all places nearest to the school, Kylie picks this one, and waiting for the food to be served isn't awkward as I imagined it to be. Not the bad sort, though. The pleasant kind. Surprisingly, Luke's okay bloke when he tries. So long as you're willing to look past the tactless remarks, or when we're not exchanging acerbic quips. It's clear he's making an effort to be as fun as possible for a 6-year-old by being chattier, even going as far as to laugh when Kylie's story calls for it. It's an interesting thing to hear from the man. More than once, I catch his frequent cheese self-expression easier whenever he looks at the girl.
And your friend? Did you make up with her?
Yep. She said she just saw something she didn't like. She didn't accept the jellies, though. She told me to give it to you instead. She knows you like the red ones, too.
Very well. Hand it to me later. I'll bring some of them home. I think your Tia would love to have some.
What a terrible liar. He says he dislikes the idea of having children of his own, but it's easy to see some part of him genuinely wants them. What's stopping him? Once Kylie wanders to the nearest bookshelf, having lost interest in the conversation, however, we both revert back to silence. On our own, we have little to talk about, aside from a few questions about the other here and there. At one point, it does veer local top politics and history. He's surprisingly versed with that. He can hold a decent conversation without throwing a jib. Nothing too personal is even mentioned so far, though. It's too early for those, and besides, I don't like him enough to speak every minute detail of my life. Better keep it strictly between the silence and casual repair. This whole thing already looks and feels wrong on so many levels. I'm quite sure he feels the same. So, when another bout of silence hits us and becomes too much, I've taken to finding something else to occupy myself, toying with my mobile, turning it from hand to hand while we wait for the respective meals. But it's been completely a lie if I say I'm not waiting for some intervention, something to pull me away from this place, someone. Ashton's probably at Salem Well by this time, working on whatever business he has there. Maybe if I make up an excuse and leave now, I could still catch him?
Cut that out, it's distracting.
My hand stills, holding the gadget awkwardly between us, arrested mid-pass by his bored tone. He's been quiet for a long minute now, after complaining about how appalling the tea they're serving here is. Before that, he has whined about how uncomfortable his chair is and how tasteless the decorations they have here. Previous to that, he has gripped about how dull the place is, compared to the ones he frequents on the upper class side of the city. Well, I'm sorry for being a bunch of peasants, your majesty. He figures he'll lose some patience soon, having already grumbled about almost everything his eyes can reach. It's just unfortunate he's turned to me now.
Why don't you just look somewhere else?
I can't. If I turn elsewhere, I might end up looking at the bobfuck right behind us.
Bob, do I even want to ask?
I don't want to hear it. If it's coming from his mouth, it can only be rude or offensive. Regardless, he continues.
Everything looks good. But have you seen the face? True horror.
Face?
What is wrong with you? You know, I frown about this in practice, but that mouth needs to be washed out with a particularly potent soap, preferably by your own mum.
A shame she isn't here,
For whatever reason, that puts Anne to the talk right away. He returns to watching his godchild, who's found a particularly interesting picture book and now is poring over it while I turn back to my mobile. Still no message. Would it kill him at least to send a message, check if I were home? Meanwhile, Luke's silence lasts all but 10 seconds.
What is it with the damn mobile? Are you on a curfew?
He's got an immature act down to a pat, I'll give him that. Seriously, how old is this guy? Has he somehow been deprived of affection during childhood?
And what is it to you? I don't think it's any of your business what I do with it.
It is my business, alright?
It's not your phone!
1, I'm the one paying here. 2, I'm being forced to eat dinner in a place this stuffed and noisy. Lastly, it's been 10 minutes, the food isn't here, and I'm hungry. What you're doing with the mobile is annoying and distracting, when the least you could do is keep things entertaining while I suffer.
Oh, trust me, Luke, we're suffering with you.
That's your problem? Shouldn't you be more worried about how this entire affair looks to other people?
Oh, I didn't realize this was one. You move fast, Daisy. You could have informed me first, you know. Had I known, I would have taken you someplace nicer. Certainly the kind with better food and plenty of good wine.
Why did I ever think this was a good idea? Did it ever occur to you how inappropriate this might look to everyone?
Why should I care? It's only inappropriate if you make it out to be. Relax. I won't do anything to make your boyfriend angry. He doesn't even need to know we dined out. It'll be our dirty little secret.
Why are you saying it like that?
He's not my boyfriend.
The words come out in more force than I intended. By the time I realize my slip-up, his lips are already spread in a sneer. Hate slowly crawls up on my face.
Oh, so there is someone. You're so easy to read.
Briefly, his eyes search my face. I have no idea what he sees, nor do I care to know, but in the next seconds, he barks out a laugh, without reserve, to everyone within earshot. In that moment, I know I flipped the switch in him somewhere, and I've lost my chance to deny his assumptions. Do I even want to? Isn't that the reason why I'm so focused on my mobile, waiting for another message from him? For a reason to dump this awkward meeting to go to him?
Look how mottled you are. Now the nickname makes more sense. Shy Miss Pink and her cute little crush. The color suits you, by the way. It matches the hair.
It's not a crush!
Classic denial. But in reality, you want him to be yours. And your every move is made to make him notice you.
Notice me, senpai! Yeah,
fact,
essentially that's what Rebecca's
you
doing.
don't want him to see you with another man in a non-professional capacity. Because he might misinterpret it.
The same thing goes for you, doesn't it? Bloody, yours is even worse. What about your wife? Aren't you concerned she might misinterpret this?
Daisy, just because we tied the knot doesn't mean we have to be joined at the hip at every single opportunity.
Don't be ridiculous. Why else would you marry her if you don't want to be with her for the rest of your lives?
I kind of agree with that with Luke, saying that, like, since you're married, you always have to be with your wife and blah 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 and all that stuff. It's not really the same thing, because if you trust your partner, then they're allowed to have friends and hang out with other people, you know? It doesn't mean they're cheating or whatever.
Because, Daisy, she also has other things she can do with her life and friends to spend time with.
True.
Granted, I don't like some of them, and I have a few of my own she utterly dislikes. But wifey doesn't have to know my every move. Nor do I hers.
It's kind of weird to say,
Do
though.
you know how boring that would be? To be with the same person for all hours of the day.
I get that,
Losing sleep
but
over
him
the
saying,
mere
like,
fact
she
they're
doesn't
not
need
with
to know
you.
my every single move, like, where I am and who I talk with. Like, it makes me suspicious of Luke.
Or putting everything you have aside to please them. To have your whole world revolve around one person.
Aren't you just mistaking that for something else? Unlike you, there are other people here who don't share the same jaded outlook you have. Don't
And you, my dear, are unexpectedly naive.
Yeah, Rebecca is a little bit naive, I'll give her that.
What's so naive about it? If you love each other, wouldn't you want to always see them, be with them, to have them focus solely on you?
She sounds like a person who's never been in a relationship or never been in love. So, like, that's why I agree with Luke, she's being so naive. Yes, it's very nice to do that, but that's not how a relationship works. You're not always gonna be with each other all the time.
Maybe you haven't been loved enough.
Oh, it's that kind of thing for you, isn't it? The love is eternal, love is a strong emotion shite. A starry-eyed girl pining for a dashing Prince Charming? What's next? Romantic confessions of love? A grand wedding on the beach?
Okay, Luke, you don't have to be
Dozens of
mean about it.
spawns running around in some picturesque home in the suburbs? How quaint. Are you also expecting it's going to be sunshine and rainbows after? A happily ever after? Please.
What? I never once said... and is all of that such a bad thing to hope for?
Woman, I've been married for 7 years, and I'm telling you, it's far from what you have in your pretty red head. Tell me, how long has this song and dance been going for you and your man? Maybe I am mistaken.
Averting my eyes from him is all I managed to do. What does his mere 7 years have compared to 17 I've had with Ash? The 17 is like you've had a crush on Ash and you haven't told him. It's not the same, you know? Sorry, Becca, but Luke is kind of right in this. It's laughable to think those two things are even comparable. Ash and I may have never moved past the boundaries of friendship. It's like what I was hoping for years, but what we have isn't something anyone can scoff at. I've always been by his side, endured everything with him. I know him better than anyone. No matter what this man, this complete stranger says, I know there will always be a place for me beside him. And yet...
Come on, Daisy, that shouldn't be too hard. 3, 5, 8, 10, 20...
His words easily seep into my heart like a sharp daggers, gradually picking apart everything that I've been sure of. Despite myself, the doubts resurface and my disturbances crumble right in front of my eyes. It's no wonder he sees through me, and as expected, he ridicules it, laughs. Restrained, low and mumble, a sharp sound spikes in the air around us amidst the murmur of people and the soft notes of music playing in our head. His shoulders shake, and when his mirth becomes too much for him, he reaches up a hand and passes it over his face as if to hold his glee close to him.
Bloody bullocks, this is just brilliant.
Why does he have to be so mean about it? That's the only thing. Like, Luke could have just shut the hell up and just, like, said it as it is and not be a dick. But no, of course he's gonna be like that.
Oh, mother, why do I always keep running into these things? This day couldn't get any better. I think I'm gonna need a stiff drink after this.
He dissolves into another peal of laughter, but when it subsides, what he has for me are more words, scoffing each of them. The urge to run from here has never been strong.
Is everything you said how you plan to act? If that man of yours ever ends up with you? Cling to him? Put him on a bloody pedestal? Let him become the center of your universe? Although with how long this seems to be going on, I think you've already done so. Marriage will just be icing on the top. Like some sort of reward for you, isn't it? For being a good, patient, loyal little girl all this time. He must have been having a grand time with someone pining over him this long. I'm a little envious, to be honest. Maybe also a little surprised he hasn't suffocated from all your attention yet.
Yikes.
Laugh all about
I
it.
kind of regret coming here
It's
now.
not
I
like
should have
you'll
just gone to
ever
Ash.
understand.
Luke falls silent. The ridicule in him is gone in an instant, and his eyes meet mine, sharp and imposing. A challenge, but I hold it against him with the same intensity, because if there's something I won't let his opinion trample on, it's this. What does he know? However, he's the first one to look away, forcing his eyes back to where Kylie is, and for a moment I believe I've won, until he draws a breath and turns back to me. The words he drops next, though, hushed, hang heavily in the distance between us.
You're right. I won't. But I do know not to mistake love for obsession, woman. They are not the same thing.
It rattles. Out of everything he said tonight, this is the one thing that twinges at my heart. In a way, I guess, yeah, Rebecca has been chasing a fantasy with Ashton, right? She kind of became obsessed over it. So I guess, in a way, Luke does have a point. She is a little bit obsessed over the fact of this fantasy world where her and Ashton are in love and they get married and have children and all this stuff. Maybe it's the manner of he delivers it, the lack of conceit in his posture, or an underlying insult in the tone he takes. The remark is not meant to cut, merely to express a simple truth. This time, it's him who holds gazes against mine. Another unspoken challenge, and I realize that, if this happens minutes before, I'd already have an equally searing retort at the tip of my tongue. But the anger is there, writhing at my insides, prodding at uncertainties I've long kept. Isn't it enough? We've had our long years we've been together. We have had the memories whenever he needs me. Until other people came in between us, I've always been there. I understand it sucks to be friend zoned, but there comes a point in time you gotta realize the person isn't gonna share the feelings. And it doesn't mean like it's a bad thing. It just means that you're not meant to be together. And as much as it hurts, there's someone else who is better for you. And I hope Rebecca realizes that instead of like obsessing over this fantasy with Ashton. The dedication and loyalty should mean something, shouldn't it? I've always been sure of it, and that one day he'll see for what it is. In spite of that, in this minute under this man's scrutiny, my own heart wavers. Now I struggle to find the words. I don't need to answer. What right do you have? I don't think we should fight with Luke as much as I would like to. Again, I kind of agree more with Luke, so I don't need to answer. However, those are for me to ponder on. This ass doesn't need to hear them, and neither is he entitled to them, just because he's dished out some profound sounding life wisdom no one asked for. So I look away, hoping my silence would be enough for an answer for him. And it is, for a moment, up until furious tears prickle in my eyes. Oh no, stinging and begging for release, along with every frustration this dumb talk has built in up me. All because of this man. I hate him. I hate the fact that he has to be the one to see me in this sorry state. I'm already expecting another barb from him when his expression shifts. Except he panics. In a span of 3 seconds, his expression changes from indifferent to concern to utter panic. It would probably be funny if I weren't so irked by the sight of this, galley kick? I don't know how to say. I think that's Scottish. Bastard.
Hey, are you crying?
Yeah, you made her cry, you dick.
Stop that right now, woman, or I'll...
Will you shut up?
He climbs up almost before I could finish. Whether this is due to a sudden force in my voice or how I look, I pretend not to think of it. He seems like a deer caught in headlights, with the way he's making himself smaller in his seat, but I'm still pissed. I'm tired, and if I can't punch him, I can at least scream at him.
You're an annoying bag of... dick, you know that?
Even though I agree with Luke, I think it's fine that Rebecca screams at him because he's being rude.
If I hear another word from you, I'm sewing that bloody mouth shut myself!
It does the trick. Not to the effect I hope, but the moment I snapped at him, the string at the back of my eyes melt away. A strange calm overcomes me. A fragile thing when found in the middle of a busy coffee shop. Nevertheless, is appreciated considering it doesn't last, immediately broken away by the very person that puts me in a state with a few awkward pats on my shoulder. Done twice. Thrice. And another. Until my patience runs out and I'm pulling out the book from my bag, raising it threateningly over his head. It'll surely dent in his skull if I smash it down on his height. Part of me wants to see that, but I restrain myself. He has a good sense to recoil, though. Shortly, he shrinks back to his seat and waves his hand in front of him in a gesture of surrender.
Watch that book, woman! I already warned you about your little threats. You don't want to see my brand of angry!
Then keep your hands to yourself!
Alright, that's it, people these days. I swear you treat them nicely.
You're
and this is
being
where it
mean,
gets
though!
me.
You're the last person I'd ever want to comfort me. Even if we're the only two remaining people on Earth. Don't flatter yourself.
Okay, have it your way, Daisy.
And stop calling me Daisy! I have a name, you know!
He mutters something inaudible under his breath, although afterwards he doesn't say anything further. For the next minute, he simply contents himself with making a mess out of the paper napkins, folding them into clean shapes without any clear intent, before crumbling them up in his hand, and when he loses interest in dumping them in a small pile in front of him. The waiter serves our meal soon enough, and Kylie makes her way back to our table, but before I can take a single bite, he mutters something. The spoken words in the same tone he used since the morning, all under his breath whenever the honest part of himself would show. Despite my rather confusing opinion of the man, I stop short of shoving my food in my mouth to look at him. His eyes are on the food as he speaks, busying himself with cutting a portion of meat in his plate, but what comes out of him only rings the true against my ear, above the din in the coffee
For what
house.
it's worth, Rebecca.
Oh.
I didn't ever think that's all there is to you.
Well, Luke, thank you for being nice and being like a decent person for once in this game.
Why else would I leave my own goddaughter in your care if you're just some lovesick woman?
He spears a piece of his food, pops it in his mouth, and that's it. One whole day with this man, I still can't figure out what his deal is. But for what's worth as well, I don't think he's an entirely bad guy. God, I hope you're right, Rebecca. I really hope I'm wrong and like, thinking that he's a bad person. Because, like, I'm really scared that he is. The rest of our meal slips by in his silence afterwards. Aside from Kylie's occasional chatter, the whole diner goes by without another word exchange between the two of us. Somehow we managed to make it through the whole thing without triggering one another tension-riddled conversations. A good thing, perhaps. One, because Kylie's sitting in front of us, and two, I probably won't be able to hold a proper conversation with my mind heavy with thoughts. We depart from the coffee house just as the evening crowd starts to thin out. Okay guys, I'm gonna end this episode right here. So looking at the relationship with Luke, it's almost filled up. Like, they're almost best friends considering, like, what happened. And like I said earlier, I do think Luke and Rebecca balance each other out. Even though he's a dick and what he said to Rebecca was mean, he's being honest at least in telling her she should stop fantasizing about Ash, because I agree, it's not worth it, dude, because, like, in all honesty, Ashton's not even in love with her. He's in love with Isabella, so it's kind of weird. But yeah, regardless of that, I still suspect Luke, but it's nice to see this nice side of him, even though he was being mean. It's still nice to see. And I like that characters have more depth into them when they're written like this. But anyway, you guys let me know in the comments what you think. If you guys enjoyed this video, remember to leave a like, subscribe, and hit the bell button so you know when I upload the next episode of The Letter. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye! What the? Jake, you have to forget it, please. Shh. A lot of them don't get any credit they deserve, so today I'll be talking about 5 awesome video game sidekicks. Number 5. Dexter. Jack and Dexter series. Dexter, the